going on, everybody, and welcome back to TCG Madness. It is Monday, which means it's time for another Star Wars Unlimited deck profile. And today's deck I built for you guys on a budget is Bossk Hunting His Prey. Now, out of the two new abilities that came out of Set 2 from Star Wars Unlimited, both being Smuggle and Bounty, I figured Bounty's a better ability so far, in my opinion. I think both of them have very unique characteristics, and I think long-term are going to be very unique to Star Wars Unlimited. And actually, I can't wait to see them keep expanding both Bounty and Smuggle. But right now, Smuggle to me isn't as good as Bounty, in my opinion. At least I don't have as much fun using the Smuggle ability. I find myself not really caring or using as much. But Bounty, on the other hand, is very interesting and very unique. And today's deck profile I built is a very nice budget deck profile for under $40. But before we go any further, you guys do me the really big favor right now. Please hit that like button. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to also hit that notification bell so you guys never miss when I drop a video. And if you guys want to comment on this video, maybe if you guys think I missed something, maybe you think a different color, all that kind of stuff, I'm always open to hearing all different types of comments from other people, constructive criticism, all of that, all good with me. I really do enjoy it. And, hey, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. So, I built the red-green Bounty deck profile. So far, like I said, when I do my play testing, there is, as far as Bounty goes, it's like I said, it's not maximized yet, obviously, because it's still very new to Star Wars Unlimited. I do think long-term, I think Bounty is going to be a very, very, very good ability. But for right now, it's not maximized yet. So this is the best that I can kind of build at the moment. But I will say too, Bounty is also a great budget deck profile. So if you are looking for a budget-friendly deck and looking for a fun time, this is definitely going to be a good deck. At the end of this video, we'll also show you 10 cards that you can add to this deck that will give it some much-needed firepower. And yes, we will be breaking the bank once I add those cards in. This deck is definitely going to run you under $40. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the deck itself. So starting with the front side, we do have Bossk Hunting His Prey. You can tap him to deal 1 damage to a unit with Bounty. You may also give it +1/+0 for this phase. Right off the bat, I actually love this ability too, because it says you may give it the +1. So if you have something of your own that has Bounty, you can basically tap Bossk, buff it up for 1, and you may buff it up if you want, but you're also going to be doing 1 damage to yourself. If you give your opponent something with Bounty, you can tap Bossk, deal 1 damage to it essentially, and not give it that +1 bonus. So I like that right off the bat. Pretty good for Bossk. He does take 5 resources to deploy him. When you do deploy him, he becomes a 4/6. And he also has, when you collect a bounty, you may collect that bounty again. Use this ability only once each round. Love that ability. To really maximize this, you really have to have a lot of cheap units with high power cost. And you have to be able to protect those units too, or flip over Bossk and basically do as much damage as you can with Bossk that have anything with bounty to collect that additional bonus of that bounty. In other words, you get to do the bounty and then you get to do that bounty again by collecting it. So basically bounty twice. Really, really cool ability, and it's very unique. For the base, I went with a traditional green Maz Kanata's Castle. I will say too, you can also swap this out with Energy Conversion Lab. ECL is a great base to put on this one too. I went with this one for now just because me personally, I'm still even getting familiar with how to maximize this deck. I built this deck, I play tested this deck a lot over the weekend. Again, Bounty is just not maximized just yet. So even still, there's other colors you can probably use that maybe you can get a little more value out of this. I went with red and green. You guys can let me know in the comment section. So we're going to go ahead and now jump into the ground unit, starting off with a 1-drop Death Star Stormtrooper. Pretty basic. It's a 3/1. 3 of these, you're going to need this because, again, it has 3 power, has 1 health, but really, we just look at the power, right? You want to deploy it, attack, get the most power done onto your opponent's base, or if it has bounty, you want to be able to eliminate that bounty as quick as possible, especially if you have Bossk. Next up is a very unique card that does have bounty trait. It's a Stolen Land Speeder. It's a 1-drop 3/2, and it says when played, this unit, if you play this unit from your hand, an opponent takes control of it. So pretty much you deploy it, your opponent immediately gets it. You might be saying that's really bad. Well, here comes where the bounty comes into play. Bounty. If you own this unit, play it from your discard pile for free and give an experience token to it. So it gets a +1/+1 counter. Basically, you deploy it, your opponent takes control of it, you immediately eliminate it, and then it gets back onto your control with a +1/+1 counter, becoming a 4/3. It's a really cool card. It's very unique. I actually wish we saw more cards like this. I hope obviously in the future sets, we should see more cards like this with the bounty. Next up is Salacious Crumb, Obnoxious Pet. It's a 1-drop 1/3. This card is obnoxious as it gets. When you play it, heal 1 damage from your base, and then it has an action. Return this unit to its owner's hand, deal 1 damage to a ground unit. A perfect combo if you really wanted to see already, you probably can tell, is to play Stolen Landspeeder. Then you play Salacious. Then you use Bossk's front ability. You do 1 damage to Landspeeder. You bring back Salacious Crumb. You do the additional damage to the Landspeeder. You get to deploy Landspeeder at a 4/3 on your turn. That's a great little quick combo that you can play. And you can see how Bounty can be. It's really unique and it's really good. I just hope that, we don't have enough cards right there to really maximize it. We should see more of that in future sets. And of course we're going to. It's still a new ability. So Star Wars Unlimited did really good with Bounty. Smuggle, not so much. Bounty, yes. Next up, we have 2 copies of Viper Probe Droid. It's a 2-drop, 3/2, and you could look at your opponent's hand. Really, we don't care about really that. I mean, it's still nice to look at your opponent's hand. Really, what we're looking at is just 3 power and a 2 health. 3/2 is pretty good because, again, if you put Bounty on other things, you want to basically eliminate those as fast as possible so you can get that added bonus or added value from having Bounty. And it's a 2-drop too, so it's pretty cheap. After that, you guys will notice right here, these are your 1-drops, and this is the only 2-drop we have in the deck. After this, we have a bunch of 3-drops. Speaking of which, 3-drop Phase 3 Dark Trooper. It's a 3/3 with Sentinel. When combat damage is dealt to this unit, give an experience token if it survives. Pretty good card there. I really like this one a lot too, because again, a 3/3 is nothing to just, sneeze at. And hopefully you can, allow it to live. If you do, you're going to get that +1/+1 bonus on it. Really, what I really care about, though, is a 3-drop with Sentinel. That's really what I care about. I like the Sentinel ability a lot. Speaking of, we also have another great green unit here. We have a 3-drop Super Laser Technician. This is a 2/1. When defeated, you may put this into your play as a resource and ready it. Green does really good at ramping, so you got to make sure you have some of these ramp cards. I think this is a staple in pretty much every green deck you're going to be building is this card. Next up, we have Escort Skiff. It's a 4-drop 4/4. As long as you control a green unit, this unit gains Ambush. Ambush is also a great keyword for this deck too, because again, you want to drop it, immediately attack your opponent if they have something with Bounty on it, so then you can get that added bonus for Bounty. Pretty good there. Next up is also another great card that really pairs up with any Bounty deck. That's going to be Jango Fett, a 4-drop for a 3/6. 4-drop 3/6 is really, really good. He also has, while attacking a unit with a Bounty, this unit gets +3 and gains Overwhelm. One thing you do a lot of with this deck is you are attacking a lot of units, so you're not doing a lot of damage to your opponent. Having that Overwhelm keyword is actually really good because you can actually slip in some extra damage and gain that added bonus for Bounty. It's a really good card there. Plus, he gets +3 when he attacks something with Bounty. So really good card. Definitely 3 copies of that. And last but not least, for the ground units, we have Ruck Thrawn's Assassin, the 5-drop 3/6. This is a great card. It has shielded #1 and also has when this unit deals combat damage to a non-leader unit while attacking, defeat that unit. If you guys know anything about Magic the Gathering, that right there, that last part reads Death Touch. It basically has Death Touch. You attack something with it, it's going to die. It's really, really good. Again, anything with Bounty, that's really good. You can put something on your opponent that has like a lot of health, maybe like a big, like Luke Skywalker. You put the Bounty on it, you deploy him, you attack Luke Skywalker's going to die as long as it doesn't have shielded or something like that. Or does it get around shielded? It might get around shielded. I think you have to actually do combat. Yeah, you have to do combat damage to it. So just make sure you guys know what you're attacking first. Space units, we only have 2. We only have a couple of space units. We have a 3-drop Twin Pod Cloud Car. It's a 2/2, restore 2. That can actually, if you're losing a lot of life, especially if you actually end up switching out your bases and go with Energy Conversion Lab, having restore can really get you out of a pinch. So I like that a lot. 2 copies of that one. Another good thing would be to just actually get rid of this and maybe put 2 copies of TIE Fighter. Reason being is Twin Pods is a 3-drop, TIE Fighter's a 1-drop. You could, I wouldn't mind, swapping that out for 1-drops, having more cost-efficient space units. Especially something like a TIE Fighter. You can deploy 2 of them for 2 resources. That actually can help you out too. This way your opponent has something to attack into or something that you can get damage into while you're attacking all their ground units with Bounty. Just something to think about. Next up for space units is a 4-drop Imperial Interceptor 3/2, and when you play, deal 3 damage to a space unit. We like this because if you have, space units if you're being outmaneuvered in the air, you can put some bounties on some space units. You can deploy this, immediately eliminate. A lot of the space units are, especially in Star Wars Unlimited, that are either cost 1, cost 2, or cost 3, usually have 3 or less health. So deploying this can be an easy way to just immediately get a bounty from something. So that's it for the space units. We're now going to go talk about some of the events. Strictly the events that I picked in this deck all do damage. That's all we care about. We just care about events that pretty much do damage. So for starters, we have a very, very cost-efficient Daring Raid. It costs 1, deal 2 damage to a unit or base. We don't care about the base, we just care about doing 2 damage to units. For a 1-drop, think about all the 1s and 2-drops right now that are being played in Star Wars Unlimited. If it's a Trooper deck, a Rebel deck, a Super Lazy Technician, you know, all that kind of stuff. Just think about all that stuff that has 2 or less health. There's a lot of them, especially right now in Star Wars Unlimited. A lot of the meta, especially with red decks, they're using a lot of cost-efficient stuff. So a lot of 1s and 2s and 3s. A lot of those cards have 2 or less health. So right there, it's an easy something that you can deploy for 1, do 2 damage, slap a bounty on it, get that bounty. Really good card there. I love it just because it only costs 1. I love that. Next up, we have Force Choke. This one's also cost-efficient. It costs 2. If you control a Force unit, it costs 1 less to pay. Unfortunately, we don't have any Force units. You could fix that. I'll show you the 10 cards you can add to absolutely fix that. And it has deal 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit. That unit's controller draws a card. Again, I don't like the fact that I'm giving my opponent a card to draw, but for the bounty, you can really, really do a lot of damage with this. Again, it's cost efficient, costs 2. If you have a Force unit, it's even better. It costs 1. So next up, Open Fire, deal 4 damage to a unit. Again, pretty straightforward, guys. 3 copies of that one. And last but not least, we have 2 copies of a 5-drop Overwhelming Barrage. You give a friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase. Then it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose among any number of other units. Love this card because, again, we have a lot of units that have 3 or more power. You can put that on a bunch of units, give it +5 power then. Then you can divvy up that 5 power and you can actually see yourself knocking down a couple of these weaker units, or you can just attack one big unit and get that bounty. Again, anything that can do a lot of damage. Another good idea too for events would also be anything that gives you ambush. Anything that gives you +1/+1 and gives you ambush would be really good. To my knowledge, there's only 1 green card that does that. And it does cost 1. I can't remember the card off the top of my head. I'll show you that card later. Maybe you can put that in a sideboard or something like that. That can also be pretty good for you. So that's it for the events. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the upgrades, because the upgrades is where all your bounties come into play. Starting off with Guild Target, one of my favorite ones because it costs 0. So attached unit gains bounty, deal 2 damage to a base. If that unit is a unique unit, deal 3 damage instead. I love this one. Just 2 copies of that one because, again, you're just doing damage to the base, which, you know, it's cool. You know, you can slap a couple of bounties on some units and basically get rid of them. And maybe you can see yourself doing at minimum 4 damage, at most 6 damage to a base. Pretty good there. And all of these two, by the way, you can manipulate them however you want. And, you know, if you want an extra copy of Guild Target because it costs less, you can maybe get rid of 1 copy of this one. Speaking of, we have a 1-drop Bounty Hunter's Query. Attached unit gains bounty. Search the top 5 cards of your deck, or 10 cards if it was a unique unit, for a unit that costs 3 or less, and play it for free. To me, this is the best bounty right here. Anything because we don't have a lot of cards right now in Star Wars Unlimited that basically read that basically look at your deck and play something that costs 3 or less for free. That right there is, it's not like it's ramp or anything, because ramp is really good in green, but basically green's allowing us also to play something for free. Not a lot of cards, and it only costs 1. The bounty only costs 1. So you can, if you had 2 of these copies in your hand, do it up between 2 different bounties. If you have Bossk, you're playing something for 3 or less for what, 2 times, so you get to play 2 cards for free. It's really, really good. This is one of my favorite cards with Bossk. It's, again, very unique, and basically that reads as Vader. Vader also does that for free as well. You know, Vader though is a little bit more powerful because it basically is anything up to 3. This one just basically says play 1 unit for 3 or less, but still, it's a very, very good card. It only costs 1. 3 copies to me is a must. Next up is the only thing that isn't not a bounty. This is also something too, if you were manipulating this deck and you take a look at my deck, maybe this is something you want to actually take out completely and add more bounties to it. Totally understandable. But I did go with 1 upgrade with his Ruthlessness. Attached unit gains when this unit attacks and defeats a unit, deal 2 damage to the defending player's base. It gives you +2/+0. I like this card because I like having more firepower, and again, we're attacking a lot of units. Imagine putting this on Jango Fett and he also gets +3. Now he's going to be a +5 when he attacks anything with a bounty. Really, really good card. If you're defeating units, then all of a sudden you're also doing 2 damage to a player's base. You are going to be definitely defeating units. There's no question about that. Next up, I have 1 copy of Price on Your Head. It costs 2, and it says attached unit gains bounty. Put the top card of your deck in play as a resource. You know, when I was play testing with this deck, this one, I use this one a lot, and this one does get you a lot of ramp. The only problem is it costs 2, and I think there's other better bounties. I think Bounty Hunter's Query and Guild Target are much better bounties than Price on Your Head. Also, too, Deathmark is a much better bounty, and I'll read you this one right now. Cost 2, another upgrade, attached unit gains bounty, draw 2 cards. I love this with Bossk. If you do this once with Bossk, you're drawing 4 cards. You definitely better be winning. If you're drawing 4 cards, you definitely better be getting either Price on Your Head. Hopefully by then too you get the Super Laser Technician, and then you can seriously ramp. That's another reason why too I didn't go with more copies of Price on Your Head, because I have 2 copies of Super Laser Technician. I usually would draw into this card too, so that's just me. So that's the entirety of the deck. I'm going to go ahead and show you the price of this deck, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the full breakdown of this deck. So there it is. There's the full deck. Here's the full breakdown. And you can see right here on the top right, it comes in at $30.83. So we are well under that budget. Usually I try to get all my decks under $40. I think that's a better budget for you guys, so you guys are not breaking the bank. You can see the full breakdown: 9 ground units, 2 space units, 4 events, and 5 upgrades, mostly being all the bounties. Again, you can manipulate this however you want. Maybe if you just want to absolutely just get rid of the twin pod cloud cards and maybe add another copy of Price on Your Head and another Death Mark or another guild target, since that costs 0. All great targets right there. Again, I wouldn't actually be opposed to that, to just absolutely just getting rid of twin pod cloud card and adding another copy of guild target and Price on Your Head. Just know though, if you do that, you do run the risk of opening up your hand with just a bunch of upgrades and maybe some units that you cannot play. Even if you mulligan, you run that risk. But still, I think this is a pretty good deck. It comes in under that $40 budget. Also, too, if you want to, maybe you guys can comment down below whether or not you agree or disagree. Maybe the Energy Conversion Lab might be better than the Maz Quintana's Castle. So with that being said, let's go ahead and now jump over to TCG Player, where I will show you 10 cards that you can add that will obviously give this deck some much needed firepower, but also absolutely break the bank. All right, so our first card that we would absolutely add to this deck would be Maul Shadow Collective Visionary. And this is again another reason why maybe you get rid of that space unit and add this card to it. He is a 7-drop, so he does cost a lot, but if you ramp accordingly, you probably will be able to get there with no problem at all. It would also give you a much better plan B option than running Bossk out there on his own, because once they get rid of Bossk, you're kind of just doing bounties for no reason at that point, and then you might as well just start swinging at your opponent's base, but then you pretty much run the risk of basically losing the game. Having Maul would definitely give you a much better plan B than that, so if you do lose Bossk, then at least you have Maul, and having Maul out there is much better. He is a 7/6, and he has Ambush and Overwhelm. He also is a Force unit, so really good with the Force Choke. Also, too, he has on attack, you may choose another friendly Underworld unit. If you do, all combat damage that would be dealt to this unit during this attack is dealt to the chosen unit instead. One thing also, too, Underworlds, we have a couple of Underworlds. We have at least 1 right here, 2 right here, and I believe we have 1 more somewhere else. Escort Skip. So we have 4 units, excuse me. Django as well is also a Underworld unit. So you do have a couple of Underworlds with the keywords, which is pretty good. So Maul does have that capability of definitely getting off that second ability. Next up is another card. Instead of Maul, maybe you want to go with a much, in my opinion, a better route. Instead of putting Maul, I would definitely add 3 copies of Darth Vader. Depends on how much money you really want to spend on this deck. Darth Vader is also a 7-drop. He has 5/7. He also has Ambush, so really good. You get to play him and immediately swing with him. But he has, when played, search the top 10 cards of your deck for any number of villainy units with a combined cost of 3 or less. Play each of them for free. So like I said, more cards that you can absolutely play. Look at the top 10 cards of your deck, play more cards for free. If you also put that with the Bounty Hunter's Query, you're really then going to be able to pop off. If you actually played Vader and you had the Hunter Bounty's Query on another card, you absolutely can play Vader, swing at that bounty, then you can see yourself getting 2 cards or more for free with that combo piece as well. Personally, I would not go with Maul. Maul's pretty good, so maybe if you want to do maybe 1 copy of Maul and maybe 2 copies of Darth Vader, personally, I would go with 3 copies of Vader and I would skip Maul. If you do go with Maul, you're going to need at least 2 or 3 copies by himself if you don't want to spend as much money as you see right here, because Darth Vader comes in at $62. He's very, very pricey. He's very expensive. Still a very good staple in green. Love Darth Vader. I think he's just obviously one of the best cards in the game right now, so you can't go wrong with either or. Next up would be if you wanted to give some more space units a try. If you want to go a little more space heavy, would be at least 2 copies of Devastator. It does cost 10. It's a 10/10 and also has Sentinel, Overwhelm, and when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control. Again, if you wanted to go more of the green ramp, so maybe if you wanted to maybe take out one of the events and go with resupply, this will be an excellent card to obviously put. Again, like I said, there's no one way of building this deck. There's always just more ways of building this deck. The way I do things is I build it to be A, budget friendly first, and B, just to be fun, just to give you guys an introductory into Star Wars Unlimited. If you guys want to then expand and go break in the bank and go with a totally different route, perfectly fine with that. That's why I keep telling you guys, comment down below what you guys would do instead of me. So if you went with the more traditional green ramp, the Devastator is definitely a good card. Just know, again, 2 or 3 copies. I probably go with 2 because it does cost 10. It is going to run you about $32 for 2 copies. So yeah, this will give you some much needed firepower for the space units. Next up is another upgrade. So maybe if you want to get rid of Ruthlessness, maybe you want to go with this card. This would be a good sideboard option for you. It's the Van Brandt's Flamethrower. It does cost 3, so it's a little more cost efficient, but it does give you +1/+1, and it has at least attached units gain on attack. You may deal 3 damage divided as you choose among enemy ground units. The reason why this might actually be a better option than the Ruthlessness that I put is, first of all, you're going to give yourself an extra bonus to the health, extra power, but when you do attack, you're doing 3 damage divided. You may come across the point where maybe you have a couple of units that have like 2 damage here, 1 damage here, and you have bounties on both of them, and you want to take both of them out, especially if you have Bossk. This will be a great opportunity. Maybe you just take all 3 of that damage and put it onto 1 unit while Bossk is attacking another unit. You can take out 2 units. If they both have bounty, you're going to then double up on your bounties. Now you're collecting essentially 4 bounties with 1 attack. Pretty good card there. Again, the only reason why I didn't add it to the deck is it does cost 3. So you're going to have to maybe manipulate your cost curves a little bit and see where this card can slide in. It'll be a great option for the sideboard, in my opinion. Next up is another card that if you want to put in your sideboard too, this would be, again, if you went to the more traditional ramp, this would be Reinforcement Walker. It is a 6/9, but when played and on attack, look at the top 5. Look at the top card of your deck. Either draw that card or discard it and heal 3 damage from your base. Pretty much, it's a 6/9 big body attack. Again, sideboard, this card would be a great option for the sideboard as well if you did go with the more traditional green ramp. Now, the last card I'm going to show you guys is if you absolutely wanted to go balls to the walls, you want to absolutely break the bank, you have an unlimited budget to spend. The card I would absolutely love to put in a deck like this, and I don't even know if this is even legal as far as like actually putting this in tournaments, but it would be a 5-drop Darth Maul Revenge at Last, the 2024 convention exclusive. You can see this card is going to run you $394. I know I'm being tongue-in-cheek when I say this, but it is a good card. I mean, it's a 5-drop, 5/6. This unit can attack 2 units instead of 1. Again, I'm just saying, if you had an unlimited budget, I don't know who's out there that has an unlimited budget, but this would be a good card. Again, I'm just being hilariously funny when I say this. Break the bank. Definitely would love to see 3 copies of that. Unfortunately, you will spend almost $1,000. So, and then last but not least, yes, you could add Energy Conversion Lab with this deck instead of the traditional 30 health base that I went with. Energy Conversion Lab does say play a unit that costs 6 or less from your hand and give it ambush for this phase. So if you want to do a little more aggro play, this would definitely be a better card to play than the base that I went with. That's going to do it for this deck. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. You guys can see, I think Bounty's a great ability. I hope to see more Bounty cards. I'm sure we definitely will see in the next set, by set 3 that drops. I hope, though, in the next set, we don't see any more new keywords. I hope they just keep expanding Smuggle and Bounty, because I do think there's a lot of potential there, but hopefully they don't overwhelm themselves by then going and saying, hey, let's make more keywords or more colors. Stick with what you have. Stick to what Bounty and Smuggle can do right now. Just keep expanding those abilities right now, and then maybe by the 4th, maybe even 5th set, then add another keyword. I think Bounty and Smuggle definitely need some much added abilities. It's fun and definitely great to play, and I love using that Bounty a lot. I just think there's better, I think we just got to see more maximization of Bounty. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please hit that like button if you did. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next time.